So welcome everyone to another installment of the Origin Community Call. As always, we have a back channel in our Discord server. You can join that at originprotocol.com/discord. And on today's agenda, let's see, we'll check in on our current sprint priorities. Daniel's going to explain what's going on at Compound. Doman's going to talk about his plan for analytics. Josh will share his vision for the growth of OUSD. And then I think we might have Evan joining us to talk about his proposal for an idle finance strategy for OUSD. And then finally, I will offer a quick update on what's happening with the NFT platform. And we'll have some time for introductions if there's anyone joining us today who wants to say hello. Before we do all of that, are there any announcements or anything else that we should note before we get started?
Well, the keeper is running, our V2 keeper, and it's not only running daily rebases now, but it also ran a allocate and shoved funds that were sitting around into all funds. Because of Compound's bug, I don't think it harvested much, if any, but it is now running and seems to be doing everything. So that's nice and right on schedule.
Very cool. Thanks, Daniel, for working on that. I actually had a question about that. I wonder how many people here are aware of like what the economic equation is there? Like what's the incentive or motivation for the keepers to call the rebase function?
We're paying them. Yeah, basically we're covering the gas costs in Link. So we pay we pay a premium in Link, and then that covers the gas costs. So we have to continue buying Link and funding the keepers for them to do that. In the future, you can envision us using some of the yield that's earned by the protocol to automatically buy Link and fund that contract. We'd like for Origin Dollar to be as self-sufficient as possible and remove any dependencies, including ourselves, from the mix. So that is something we'll be looking at in the future, as well as being more intelligent about how we do the rebasing and harvesting versus, rebasing we will keep on a schedule, but harvesting we'll probably try and be more intelligent about how and when that should be called based on, how large the rewards are better waiting for us.
Sounds good. And I should know this, but have we disabled random calls to rebase yet and restricted it to just the keepers or no?
Nope, they're still... Go ahead. Yes, they're still running. And so we're going to run this for a little bit first to make sure that it's happy and everything's good before messing with that. So this is just in addition to any random rebases that happen.
Cool. But that is the plan, to limit it to just the regular daily schedule, yeah.
That's a strategy, I guess, not necessarily technical questions. That'd be more Josh, I guess.
All right. Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I didn't know if you want to weigh in, but my internet dropped out there, so I missed the question you had, so apologies.
No big deal. We'll follow up on it a little bit later. I didn't mean to keep us focused on that topic for too long. Are there any other announcements or anything to highlight before we jump into the sprint?
I guess maybe one quick thing is we the Open Zeppelin audit is finished, and it all looks good. So we're gonna deploy all the fixes soon. And there wasn't any major security issues before.
Wonderful. Thanks, Frank, for highlighting that. Do we have a plan for publishing that report? Maybe that's a question for Josh.
Yeah, we're working on the blog post announcing that. Obviously, we will publish a full report after we're done with the deploy. So that's the order of operations is first and foremost getting the deploy done, and then we'll coordinate with OpenZeppelin to publish that report. They're going to promote it on their end. We'll share some of the high-level updates on our end. And so we're working on a blog post draft as we speak for that.
Sounds good. That's a great segue into the current sprint priorities, which mostly revolve around the deployment of all the upgrades and changes. So maybe we start with Tom. Could we get an update on the status of the Solidity upgrade and deployment and relaunch of Aave strategy?
Yeah, I'm done with the migration stuff, and I've tested it out on Fork, and it looks good. Frank's been through and given a review. Thanks, Frank. So we're just waiting on review from Daniel, and then I'll run it and do the necessary governance dance.
Let's have Crazy Buster take a look as well. Just given how important this and complicated this deploy is.
Good idea.
Do we have a sense for when that deployment might be done, pending those reviews, or a target date?
I should be able to review tomorrow morning.
Okay.
If not tonight.
Should we aim for that deployment to be done by, I don't know, Thursday, if not earlier?
Yeah, we can kick it off as soon as it's reviewed and everything looks good from the reviewer's point of view. So whenever that happens, Thursday sounds reasonable.
Okay, and does that include the Aave strategy relaunch, or is that just the Solidity upgrade?
Yeah, it's all in the same package.
Awesome. Okay, Daniel, how about the Convex strategy and precision upgrade?
Okay, the Convex strategy is now code complete. It's probably 80% UPann's code, 20% mine. So I'm doing my own personal PR review on it right now. But as far as I've looked at it this morning and finished it out this morning, so that code should be ready to deploy as soon as we're done with the reviews. And the precision upgrade has not yet been, the rest of that's not yet been done yet. So that should be done this sprint.
Okay, so this will be a Josh.
And that's all the scripts written for it, and possibly able to deploy it next week.
That was going to be my question, just around timing and sequencing. So we deploy the new Solidity upgrade and all of the changes from OpenZeppelin. Then we do precision upgrade, or we deploy Convex first. What's the order of operations here?
The order of operations on really doesn't matter, other than the fact that we do the big upgrade first, so that we can sell Convex tokens. So the big upgrade comes first. Convex can go in at any point after that, and the precision upgrade can go in at any point after that. We'll want to pick the precision upgrade time carefully, because we'll actually be pausing OUSD while that runs.
Yep. And that's something we'll want to run before doing any big promotion or campaigns around this.
Yep. So yeah, it's the next priority after Convex.
Sounds good. I don't think I see Doman here, unless I'm just missing him. So we can come back to him on some of these other projects. But I wanted to ask maybe Josh, do you know the status of UPann's contract changes on the OGN staking?
I do. So he got the PR up. I saw Frank gave a pretty thorough review on the staking contract. And so, I think code looks good, just needs a little bit of cleanup and linting. But that should be good to go. And that's, again, just for the few unfortunate people who've been tricked into giving up our private keys, and so we're adding a function for people to be able to transfer their stake from one wallet to another. Because of the situation where there's a hacker attacker who now has access to those keys, it doesn't really work for the victim to fund their wallet with Ethereum and then process this change themselves, because the minute you send ETH to that account, the attacker, if they've got any sort of good monitoring setup, will immediately drain that wallet. So instead, thanks to Daniel coming up with a good solution here, UPAN wrote a signature-based version where the victim can sign a transaction saying, yes, I want to transfer my wallet from this address to that address. They can give it to us, and then we'll publish it on their behalf. And that way they can change their staked position from one wallet that's been compromised to a fresh wallet, which hopefully is not compromised.
Very cool. Unfortunately, we've had several reports of that happening. Not something that we could control. Everyone, it's a benefit. It's a double-edged sword of custodying your own funds and managing your own keys. But it's great to hear that we have somewhat of a solution for them. Okay, I'll circle back with Doman on some of these front-end and analytics projects that he'll be working on and is already working on. But for now, we can jump into Daniel's discussion about what's going on at Compound.
Yeah, so Compound in their latest deploy put a bug in their controller where for some lesser used marketplaces, it would massively miscalculate how much comp you were owed. This allowed one guy to collect like $23 million on the first. The way the Compound system works is it constantly drips funds in as they're owed to people, although most people have not claimed them yet. So there was a big pool of unclaimed funds for everybody, which then it started handing out big masses of that to people. This doesn't actually affect any user funds at all. This is purely the comp rewards distribution. However, it does affect their APRs, or the effective APRs of using Compound, just because suddenly the rewards are not there right now. Now they have said in their forum post that they're going to take care of refilling that and get everybody their rewards. But at the moment, you basically don't really collect much rewards if you're not somebody who's jumping right in the line and doing set yourself up to be eligible for the buckets of money. And I know that there's several white hats who are working with Compound who are basically collecting as much of it as they can as it's coming out now. However, big piles of comp have already gone out the door. So they made a proposal to fix that, which basically, if anyone tried to harvest their comp rewards, it reverted the transaction. This was not a good fix because everybody who's doing yield farming with by smart contracts with Compound, suddenly their contracts are broken, and that includes OUSD. Now we have, because of the Compound time lock system, we have the ability to just either pull our funds out of Compound or just disable the harvesting. However, I posted on the Compound forums that that's a problem, as well as some other people who have yield farming stuff, and they have made a second proposal that just does not hand the funds out to people, but doesn't, hang on a second. It doesn't actually revert. It just doesn't give people funds until they fix the bug. And also it's much smarter about it. It only doesn't give people funds if they're one of the people who would be getting too much funds, if they've been lending to the marketplaces. So that's much nicer than because everybody else is still getting yield. Things go as normal until they go back and fix the accounting for the people whose accounting is messed up. So I'm in favor of that second proposal that they've made. Then yesterday, somebody found a method that basically dumps way more comp into the system And so a great big pile, more comp went out the door. I have not tracked down to see whether it was white hats who did that first and grabbed the great big huge dump of comp or others. But anyway, that's where it's at. It's certainly a mess for Compound. It's going to be a pain to fix because it's actually not just messed up in giving out too much, but it's also messed up the accounting on the affected accounts. So they're going to have to go back in and change the accounting. But as far as OUSD, if we did, we'll have to see what they do with their proposal. If they vote for the first proposal, then we'll adjust OUSD so it's not affected. If they vote for the second one, we're just unaffected. We've sent out the first one in fork of mainnet. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
One question I had as I think through this is just what the takeaways are for us as we continue our transition to decentralized governance. We've actually used Compound as kind of a template that we've been planning to follow on how we would actually relinquish 100% of control of this to the holders of OGN with 100% on-chain governance. And I think this raises a question not only for us but other people in the community on what the right strategy is here when your time lock can actually bite you in the butt. And now their hands are tied for 7 days where there's just nothing they can do by design. There's nothing they can do. One idea I had was, taking, if we're using Compound's governance contracts as the starting point, what it would look like to have a fast revert type function where no, you can't just upgrade to any smart contract you want, but you could have a group of trusted people who could revert back to a previously approved contract that was voted in by the community. And that way, if you do have a bad deploy at some point, you can hit that undo button, so to speak, and get back to a safe version of a contract that you had before. Curious to get your thoughts on that, reactions to that idea. There's also just any other lessons we can take here as we think through our own plans and strategies for going to decentralized governance. I guess I'll point that question at Daniel first, and then anyone else has thoughts on that.
Yeah. So one of the things we learned last November was to have a very fast way to pause things. And so although even if we put our governance under time lock, we still have pausing, rebasing, and pausing capital movement as a action that can happen very quickly without going through the full process, just two people on a multi-sig. So that's one thing that could stop some set of problems right away. Now, maybe there's more that it needs to be able to do in that fast fashion. On the governance side, part of the reason why it's taken so long is because the Compound governance is not merely a time lock, but is a three-step process where you have 2 days of review. I may be getting these wrong, but you've got days of review before any voting starts. Then you have days of voting, and then you have time lock after the voting. So that basically triples, your cycle time essentially by having those three phases. Now, they've been burned before by not having the review time. People just jump in, think it looks good, hit vote, and vote for something dumb right away. And actually in this, the review time has been helpful because people spotted the fact that it was going to break everybody's yield contracts during the review phase before anyone had voted. And so at least this morning when I looked, like the very first two votes were against the one that would break everything. And that wouldn't probably have happened had there not been the review phase. So I think the review phase actually has been a good idea and is something they've learned in a painful manner. Now, possibly the vote time, if we're looking on shorting the entire cycle time, maybe the vote could be shorter phase if people are already following it. If you vote in a day instead of 2, that could cut a day off of it. Similarly, if the thing's already been reviewed for a while and there's been discussion, you can be ready to act on whichever way the vote goes. Maybe like a 1-day time lock after a community, a big full community vote or something could work. Now in our intermediate phase with, there still should be 2 days, I guess, is my gut feeling, or maybe 47 hours or something between something getting proposed on chain and it being able to go through. But we could possibly make sections of what they have shorter than what they're doing. Lastly, on the revert side, you mentioned the normal way of handling these migrations, like in a database thing, is you have essentially 2 scripts that would be part of the proposal. One would be the forward script and one would be the rollback script. And that way the rollback is already written and is already there. Now that does give you twice the testing beforehand because you sure better test that your roll forward and roll back process works. But that way you could have something be able to fire off your rollback. And not everything would really be able to be rolled back. Sometimes it wouldn't be there because it could very easily be something that, a contract change you can't change back from. Yeah. That's a brain dump of responses there.
Anyone else have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, that the rollback might not necessarily be compatible with the upgrade. I guess another approach is we have a sort of, if you have an overwhelming majority, you can execute anything in the time lock at any time. So you take 80% of votes, and you call a special function to execute something in the time lock whenever you want. Generally, if there's a severe bug, we should be able to get a big majority to turn out and vote for a fix.
I think getting 80% of voters to do anything, it would be very, very hard.
Yeah.
You might be right.
So probably some lower threshold.
Unless there's a faucet attached to that voting, I don't think it's going to happen.
All right. Any other questions or comments on governance or what's happening at Compound? I was going to ask Daniel. You talked a little bit about what this means for us going forward, depending on which of those proposals gets approved. What does it mean, though, today, like in the immediate term? Are we still harvesting or not because of the accounting being messed up?
Yes, the accounting for us should be correct. However, we just aren't actually getting comp if there isn't comp to hand out. So in theory, OUSD is still earning comp as before. We just may not be receiving comp. And so in theory, once they fix the contracts and refill the thing with comp, then we would get whatever we've earned during this period.
Gotcha. And our APY calculation does not include any of that pending comp. It only calculates the result once we liquidate it.
Correct. The APYs have been going up over the last few days on Compound, and so our APYs is going up as well as a result.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, thanks as always for keeping a close eye on what's going on over there. Let me hand it off to Josh if you want to talk a little bit about your vision for growth of OUSD.
Sure. Yeah, we unintentionally created a bit of a firestorm within our community when they got wind of the conversations we're having about liquidity mining, and wanted to talk a little bit about that. One of the side effects of doing our work in public is sometimes stuff gets out to the community without them having a full context on what we're thinking, and so wanted to to take just a minute to explain a little bit in more detail about what our thoughts are for liquidity mining with Curve and why we think this is a good idea. First, let me say, most of my net worth is tied up in OGN. And to this day, I haven't sold a single token of OGN. And so some accusations in the community that we are just trying to intentionally tank the price of OGN, or that we don't care about the price of OGN, just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Everything we do at Origin with all of our products, all of it is designed to drive value to that token, and we're very financially incentivized to try and make OGN as successful as possible. So I think some of the concerns the community have are well-founded. I think a lot of us have seen projects where they have very generous farming campaigns, and then you look at the trading volume, 80-90% of the volume on that token is just farmers who are farming it and dumping it, and driving down the price of that token. And so I understand where the community is coming from, and hear loud and clear that they do not want OGN to become a victim of the same things we've seen play out from other tokens that have used farming as a main strategy. So why are we talking about this? Well, first of all, our high level goal here is to become a replacement for Tether. We want Origin Dollar to be used everywhere that you would currently use Tether, for payments, for de-risking when the market gets choppy, for settling your bills with your friends, for remittances, anywhere that you would use Tether today, we want you to use Origin Dollar. And we think it's a superior product for doing that. If you're holding Tether, you're not earning anything, and no matter what the APY is on Origin Dollar, it's going to be better than that. And so it's just as good on a payment perspective, because it's always stable at $1. It's just as useful, it's just as good, but you get this added benefit of earning yield on top. But why are we not seeing Origin Dollar being used today the same way that people are using Tether? Well, for a stablecoin to be useful, it has to be ubiquitous. We have to be able to we have to be on all the top exchanges. Origin Dollar is not on Binance today. It's not on Coinbase. It's not on very many exchanges at all. And then most of the places you can buy it, other than KuCoin, VergoX, are on DEXs. And that's fine for now, but we're not going to be able to achieve our goals, our long-term goals of displacing these main stablecoins, making it a first-class stablecoin without getting on those exchanges. And so when we've talked to those different exchanges, have told us, come back and talk to us once you have your circulating supply up. Once we get our circulating supply up, then it makes it far easier for us to go have those conversations with the exchanges, be able to get listed on top exchanges like Binance and Coinbase, exchanges that we have relationships with, right? We already have OGN listed on those exchanges. They know us. We have a great relationship with them and others in the space. But we have to prove that this is something that people want. Now, as we start getting these exchange and listings and integrations in different DeFi protocols, what happens is it makes it easier for people to get Origin Dollars. That in turn leads to more liquidity. More liquidity in turn leads to more integrations and exchange listings, which leads to more liquidity, and becomes this virtuous cycle that hopefully helps us achieve our long-term goals for this project. And when we do that, when you think about what happens when we get to 9-figure or 10-figure TVL for Origin Dollar, this actually starts having a really positive value accrual for OGN. For those of you who don't know, and baked into the protocol, we have 10% of a yield that's generated by the protocol is used to go buy OGN on the open market. And that happens automatically. That's built into the protocol. And so today, it's not that meaningful because the TVL is so low. But as the TVL of Origin Dollar increases over time, that is going to become more and more significant, and will start having a very positive impact on the value of OGN. But we have to get listed on those exchanges for that to happen. And so when we think through what can we do to grow the TVL of Origin Dollar? The first place that comes to mind, of course, is liquidity mining. We've seen this be very successful in many different DeFi protocols. And there are plenty of examples where there are liquidity mining rewards that where the token, the governance token associated with that, has not only not decreased in value, but has actually continued to thrive over time. And we've seen this particularly with the blue chip protocols, that their tokens are doing exceptionally well, despite the fact that we're giving them away in mass volume. Now, to be clear, we're not talking about giving away huge amounts of OGN. And we're also talking about a short-term campaign with some very specific goals in mind versus making this a long-term use case for OGN. So again, short-term campaigns, we're thinking, the way it works on Curve, these campaigns are 7 to 10 days long. We put up some OGN, we reward the farmers, and then we can get that data and reevaluate on how well it's working, and then we can continue to adjust and optimize as we go. We're also not talking about a lot of OGN. And one of the most important things to keep in mind here is what percentage of the daily trading volume do these rewards represent? If you talk to any market maker, you ask them, hey, how much of any token or coin is it safe for you to sell without moving the market? They'll say something like 1%. As long as you're under 1% of any token and trading volume, you're probably it's not going to be perceivable in the market. You're not going to move the market too much. And so that's kind of the ballpark we're looking at. 1% or less of our daily trading volume is what we consider safe, where we wouldn't want to go anything above that. Now, even with that small of rewards, that's enough, just because of how much trading volume we have on OGN, that's enough to really have a meaningful impact on the TVL of OUSD and help us achieve those long-term goals that we're so excited about and really believe in. And lastly, I would just say this is also a community decision. This is something we're planning to put to a governance vote. We're going to make our case to the community and put this up for a vote. We certainly appreciate everyone's opinions and want people to weigh in. We certainly appreciate the enthusiasm of the community jumping in and wanting to defend OGN. We feel very strongly about OGN as well, and we really appreciate that enthusiasm. And sorry for getting everyone concerned. Certainly we're listening, we hear you. We also really want OGN to be successful. What we've been doing to date is really just laying the groundwork, getting all the integration stuff done on Curve so that we are in a position where we can actually pull the trigger and move forward with this campaign, assuming we have the support of the community. A lot of this ties back to the way we like to operate at Origin, which is taking a long-term view. How do we focus on making Origin successful in the long term? Our time horizon is 1, 5, 10 years from now. It's not all about the price of OGN today or tomorrow. I want to work on Origin for the rest of my life, and and I think many people on this team feel the same way. And so this is something we really believe is going to be valuable in helping us achieve our long-term vision of growing Origin Dollar and making it a superior replacement for Tether.
Thanks for walking through all of that, Josh. That's really helpful. Anyone here have any questions or anything to add to that? One thing that you mentioned, Josh, is these campaigns being relatively short. I think 1 week cycles on Curve, and us keeping a close eye on those and measuring them. We'll talk in a few minutes about analytics and how the work that Doman's doing ties back into this. We've got a couple of other things on the agenda first, though. We'll give Doman a few minutes to get settled in now that he's here. Did you, Josh, want to talk about, on the topic of exchange listings, did you want to talk about Cream, although not an exchange, still important?
Yeah, so we have a close relationship with the Cream team. Matt and I got to know him quite well when we were living in Taiwan. OGN is currently listed on Cream as an asset that you can borrow, or you can actually use it as collateral to borrow other assets, which is really cool. And we're in conversations with him to offer the same support for our Origin Dollar as well. So that's very exciting. We're eager to help us get that listed. And so once we have that set up, we'll be able to again use it as collateral or be able to borrow it, which again is just unlocks new possibilities for Origin Dollar as a money let go of its own.
Wonderful. Interrupt me if anyone has any questions or comments to add. Frank?
Yeah, maybe one thing in terms of, like Josh, you mentioned the tie-in between OGN and all the products we work on, and just wanted to highlight also on the NFT Launchpad that we have the same same approach. I don't know if we are if we announce some of the efforts that are taking place there, but definitely the team is constantly thinking about how to leverage OGN when we build products.
Yeah, and we actually have a blog post we're working on announcing some of the details and exactly how we're thinking about that on the NFT side of the business. We're really excited about it, and we can't wait to share more details in the near future.
Sounds great. Thanks, Frank, for mentioning that. If there aren't any other questions or comments to add, I don't believe that Evan made it here today. Evan, if you're here, interrupt me. But just another plug for his informal proposal that we talked about briefly last week to introduce idle finance strategy for OUSD. I think Evan has a meeting, regularly scheduled meeting that conflicts with this time. But maybe he'll be able to join us next week and we can get into more details about that. So, Doman, if you are ready, it'd be great to hear more about the progress you're making on the analytics side of things.
Okay. So first, maybe just to give the breakdown of the whole project. So we already have some analytics on OUSD. We have some Google Analytics. Daniel built the great on-chain analytics.ousd.com where there's already like everything that happens interacting with the OUSD contract is already present. And now what I think we're kind of missing is we have like this document of whole bunch of like questions we want answered to be able to gauge like user behavior, but maybe not like a good unified way on how to access like that analytics data. So the idea is to actually upgrade so the on-chain analytics and the off-chain, which would be Google Analytics, and then combine the results of those into a weekly or monthly emails containing all different KPIs we're interested in, and with along with trends, right? So along with KPIs of the previous week or previous month. So we'll be able to gauge our success. We got more or less the stuff on Google Analytics already done. So we'll just be probably for the first few iterations just manually reading the data off there, and if it's going to turn out that these emails are super useful, we're probably just going to build an API pulling. We're just going to build something to interact with the Google Analytics API, pulling that data. What else? So yeah, maybe just some idea of the questions we want asked is like how much OUSD, for example, is bought or sold using mobile devices. How much of the traffic, of OUSD swaps go through our DApp, or and how much go through other systems. Other routers, for example, that are circumventing our DEP can be like Uniswap, or when I was inspecting the transaction, I see that MetaMask swap is being a lot more popular. You can see that because the main contract that the transaction interacts with is the MetaMask router. And like growth trends like the number of accounts holding OUSD, are there accounts that were previously holding OUSD and are now increasing their stake in the OUSD, which stablecoins are being used for buying OUSD, that kind of stuff. And also maybe also if we'll do some marketing campaigns, it's pretty useful because we already attach a UTM source. So if we do a marketing campaign with some partner or like a classic marketing campaign using Google Ads or Facebook or whatever ad tool, we can then exactly gauge how much OUSD has been bought as a result of a specific marketing campaign, which those kind of answers can be like really useful, so we can gauge like the effectiveness of our partners who are promoting OUSD. And to get there, a lot of stuff. So as I said, the off-chain, the Google Analytics stuff is more or less already done, and Daniel already did a great base for the on-chain stuff. So that's already running and ingesting almost all of the data we already need to answer all these questions. If, for example, we would like to, if we'd like to see how much stuff is staked in Curve rewards or something, there's going to be like some small additions we need to do to that existing data. And the things that need to be added data-wise to get those answers is we need some more classification of transactions, because currently the first analytics was done, where the DEP only interacted with the vault. So that's the only thing that's classified as a mint or redeem or a swap. But now there are like so many multiple other routers and contracts that end up swapping or swapping OUSD. So we just need some additional classification of those events. And also we'd like to know for any point of time what was the OUSD balance of any wallet, and there's some calculation needed to get to there. And it's pretty cool to get that done, because we're going to need that also for another project we have in Zeppelin, where we'd like to show the transaction history. So each user could see for their wallet a transaction history, and each item contains also like the balance at that point. So just supplementing, just adding that data into our on-chain analytics, we kind of get two birds with one stone. So yeah, I'm more or less currently in the phase of adding those two things in, and then I guess we're going to be pretty close, already being able to generate that weekly or monthly report. I would love some feedback on this, if you think there's like a better approach or I'm missing something crucial. So that's where we are, or something wasn't maybe clear enough that I was explaining.
Yeah, I think that's great, and thank you for taking initiative on this, Domin. This is really important for us to be looking at that data, so appreciate it. Quick feedback, I think, as we think about reports, email is maybe a little tricky for public visibility, so maybe we want to have some sort of public-facing dashboard or somewhere where people can access that publicly. Email works great for core team, but not so great for public consumption. And then when I think about analytics, I think about it first as one of the founders is Origin, and I care about the global analytics. When I think about it as a personal user of Origin Dollar, I really only care about it from a personal analytics standpoint, which is how much money did I make from this year? How much did I make in January? How much did I make in February? Like getting into the nitty gritty on my own personal holdings. I think that ties into what we're talking about with a new bank account view, where it shows you a list of all your transactions, all of your rebasing. But we'll probably want to show some pretty graphs and some other stuff around that as well. Just driving home the fact to people of like, how much money we're making from this, how it make it easy for them to verify the results, that they're, they can visually see that their balance is going up every single day, and maybe have some pretty charts and stuff to help visualize that as well.
So if I understand correctly, so earnings through time would be another data point well worth having. Because if you just want to, figure out how much a certain account has earned, I think Daniel's already done that.
Yeah, we already have that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but earnings through time, yeah, that's a good point. Thanks. I'll write that down.
Yeah, I think we're all itching to have an improved public-facing dashboard that has is more visual and has more of these. It answers more of these questions. I do like the suggestion to have something that is more proactively sent out, like a weekly email. I don't know if it's scope creep to have a newsletter sign up where people can put in their email address and they get on the same email list, but I know that, when we've had dashboards in the past, it's sometimes difficult to remember to check it, on a regular basis. So I do think that would be cool if it's something we could include. And thanks especially, Doman, for catching that MetaMask volume data point. Like, I would not have anticipated that a lot of people were swapping within MetaMask. So that's really cool to know.
Yeah, people are speculating whether we're going to launch our own token and do a airdrop to people who used it. I think that's driving at least some of the usage.
Right, because it's otherwise more expensive than the DEXs, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions or comments for Doman? If not, then I can give a quick update on the NFT side of things, and then we'll open it up for any other comments or introductions if there's anyone that wants to say hello. So this late last week, this weekend, we hosted a sale for BT. He's a Grammy-nominated electronic music artist. He's been working on basically a tokenized custom music player for his new album, which is like really revolutionary. It took me some time to really like grasp the concept, even after talking to him about it for a long time, but seeing it in action was pretty amazing. So this weekend it brought in over 100 ETH, and it included that auction included bids from some of the most active and well-known NFT buyers like 888, Pranksy, Mondor. It was really cool to see them really care about that piece that he had spent so much time on, and we had spent a lot of time talking to him over the past several months. So this was a great example of you could say like an established NFT artist creating something that was really unique, but also selling it on his own terms, and that's what we're focused on with our NFT Launchpad, is building a platform that allows like the top NFT creators to have their own storefronts, their own marketplaces, even deploy their own smart contracts, and just generally like push the boundaries and not be constrained by the limits of other traditional marketplaces and platforms that they're familiar with. So we're currently making a transition from having like in-house tools and doing a sort of a concierge onboarding, and moving to a suite of creator tools that make it possible for not only for us to scale more aggressively, but to give users the flexibility and convenience to manage their own sites, deploy their own contracts, create NFTs, and sell them, like I was saying, on their own terms. So this week we'll be doing a lot of internal testing on that platform, and we'll be preparing to open it up to some of those established creators, and they'll serve as beta testers and provide us with some early feedback over the next couple of weeks. And then we should have some updates on that front in, well, hopefully later this month, I guess. Any questions about that or anything to add, Matt, or anyone else who's working on some of that with us?
Yeah, I just want to say that we're really, really excited about this upcoming launch. The entire NFT team has been, working really, really hard on it, and we're trying to get to a place where we think we can really start democratizing NFT creation for a bunch of different types of creators. And fingers crossed that everything goes really, really well in the next couple of weeks of testing. But I think this could be a huge move for us in continuing to establish ourselves as leaders in the NFT space, where record-breaking drops are happening. But now also that creators of all sizes and different verticals, brands, sporting teams, athletes, like digital artists, like students, whatever it may be, they're going to get a chance to use the same technology suite that has previously been closed for just the very, very top creators. And so we look forward to advancing our vision here. Internally, sometimes we've joked around about building the Shopify for NFTs. We have to figure out exactly how to position externally. But the idea is, let's grow the market for NFTs. Let's be one of the players that really expands the market size, both for everyone, but then also grab more market share of top NFT sales. And with that will come favorable economics for the Origin platform and OGN. So a lot happening in the next period of time, but everyone is just really, really focused, heads down, working on engineering, as well as getting feedback from our creator partners that are testing the platform. So just super amped up about it.
Okay, Matthew, along the lines of the testing for the creator platform, what are some of the kind of features, functionality that the concierge testing has let you to kind of know that mass market is asking for, like kind of the initial creator tools that people want?
Yeah. So I think it's important to think about like the two sides of the market, right? So on the one hand, we have many creators, right, that wanted to use our platform. Like literally thousands of people have emailed in, some that are like really, really big names, but we just couldn't onboard everyone because we weren't ready to scale yet. And then there's others that, have really interesting use cases, but we're just kind of too small as we were first getting started. So we want to onboard everyone. And these creators have probably more sophistication than people on the buyer side, right? Because they're very motivated to be able to figure out how to upload their assets, mint their NFTs, etc. But even in this case, we're trying to make it simple and make it easier for creators to get started with our platform than potentially, trying to figure out the ins and outs of like a foundation or whatever, right? The other advantage of our platform, as we think longer term, is because we're making the NFT sales are happening on individual creator sites, just like Shopify, it allows for more feature differentiation and allows for future application development, both by us and by potential third-party developers on the platform, to create like more customized experiences on each of these sites, right? That's something that's really hard for something like an OpenSea or Maker's Place to do, because when they release a feature, it has to be present across like all their drops, right? It's hard to say, hey, this particular creator is using like a very unique sales type, or using a very unique or accepting like custom tokens, or whatever it might be. So anyways, that's what we're focusing on the creator side. And if you've participated in any of our NFT sales on the buyer side, you'll see that we're trying to appeal to both sophisticated NFT buyers, right? And we have some work there to do to make the experience a little bit more streamlined, for what we call NFT degens, right? But also make it easy enough for mainstream participants to get involved, right? So the Polygon NFTs are a good example of allowing mainstream people to participate at lower price points, be the very first NFT that they purchase in their lives. We'd love for a lot of people to do that on Origin. And so a lot of these user experience improvements that we're adding on the buy side as well should hopefully make it easier for us as an industry and particularly us as a company to get way more NFTs sold and then really benefit from this growing trend.
Gotcha, thanks. So basically focusing around the flexibility.
Thanks for the question, Tate. You can unmute if you want. There's a little bit of background noise, but we appreciate the question. Any other questions for us or any comments? Also, if there's anyone who has not introduced themselves before, if you're joining us for the first time or would just like to say hello, it's a great opportunity to tell us how you learned about Origin, what you're currently excited about, what you're working on, that sort of thing. So if that's you, feel free to unmute. Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining us as always. We'll be here at the same time, same place next week, I believe. And of course, we are in Discord all week, and we would love to have you jump in and say hello. Until next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.